All right, let me now introduce a very special guest. Now 3-0 professional MMA fighter in Bellator MMA. Bailey Schoenfelder, fresh off his Bellator 284 win over Mark Courier. How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I guess we'll just start with there, obviously. Fresh off your third professional MMA win, your first fight that went into the second round. Would you say that is your toughest test that you've had so far in the cage?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Uh, it was it was never uncomfortable in that I was like, oh no, like I'm gonna lose this or anything like that. But definitely, as far as like experience goes, I would say it was invaluable to get that first round out of the way. Stand up, strike, take some punches, give some punches, and I think that was what I needed most, and that was probably the best thing that I could have gotten out of that fight. Yeah.
Um, so a guy like Mark Courier who you fought, he was only 1-1. Do you do much like research beforehand on him? Do you like uh look at his past fights or anything, or do you just kind of go in there with a game plan that you preset throughout your training camp?
Yeah, I did a little bit of research, I found a few of his like videos from I think it was one of his pro fights and then one of his recent amateur fights as well. That was about the extent of it. I wasn't like watching him every day, like doing film
Yeah.
study or anything like that. Just I watched him a couple times, look for tendencies, style, like things that he does a lot or any like mistakes he might make or like techniques that he likes. But yeah, it wasn't anything too complicated or in depth. Yeah.
Did would you say he surprised you at all in the cage, or was he kind of how you expected him to fight?
It was exactly as I expected him to fight. He did pretty much everything that I was um, anticipating that he would do. I was like, it was surprising. I would say he did get better. I would say that it looked like he lost some weight, and you could tell that he had definitely prepared hard for this fight.
Yeah. So I know that you were a pretty big favorite on the betting lines before the fight. Is that something you ever look at or notice before any of your fights?
No, I don't really pay any attention to that stuff at all.
Yeah, I was just curious. So you had a long training camp, about full year since your last fight. How did that go? Did you have any I guess rough training for this fight, or was it kind of all smooth recovering from your past injury that you had?
Yeah, as far as my hand goes, that I never had any issues with that during this camp. But I mean, yeah, it was a typical camp. The first probably 3 weeks of my camp I did here in Minneapolis, and then I finished her off down in Florida at Sanford or Killcliff Fight Club. That's always tough, but it's always good to get prepared for a fight that way. But yeah, as far as like my hand, it was perfect the whole time.
Yeah, so you're obviously still pretty fresh in the sport, only 3 fights in. How much do you feel like you personally improved since you've started training, in I guess all aspects of your fighting game?
I feel like I've improved a lot. I mean, I can still remember it's not even 2 years ago yet when I just kind of showed up and started training. And I mean, my wrestling was there obviously, but everything else, especially striking, like I feel like I've come leaps and bounds, especially just with the people that I've had the opportunity to work with in my short career. I feel like I've come a long way. You
Um, so you mentioned that you were feeling well physically before the fight, and then it was your first like real fight. You took some blows for probably one of the first times in your career. How are you feeling, I guess, after the fight, and how do you celebrate a big win like that?
I was feeling great afterwards. Aside from my hand, which is a little dinged up, um, but yeah, from where I had just basically a black eye over here. There was a lot
Yeah.
of blood. Um, I wasn't sure where that was coming from at the time, but that was just a bad nosebleed. But yeah, I mean, my black eye is pretty much gone already, and I didn't really have any residual damage. I mean, even a couple days after the fight, I was feeling fine. And but yeah, as far as celebrating, I just after the day after the fight, I went home and spent some time with my family back in South Dakota, and then came back up here to the cities and kept on keeping on.
Yeah. So I kind of noticed the guy you're fighting, Mark Curry, he did look pretty big. Like you mentioned, he might have lost some weight. It was 35, 40 pound difference between you and him. Have you ever, I guess, thought of moving down to 205, or do you kind of want to stick at heavyweight for, I guess, the rest of your career?
Yeah, I've given it some thought and discussed it with my manager, coaches, and some fighters. I like heavyweight right now. I'm actually once my hands back in working shape, I'm gonna work on getting back up to like 245, 250. So, I mean, when I started training, I was 260 plus, and lost a bunch of weight. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I can get back up there, and that's what I'm working on right now. But yeah, I think I like heavyweight, and I like the advantages that I have as far as athleticism and all that stuff. And strength isn't really an issue. Like I can handle bigger guys even right now. So yeah, I think I'll stick at heavyweight for right now. At some point in my career, I'm definitely gonna make a move on light heavyweight, but I think I like heavyweight for the moment.
Do you usually stick around that 225 throughout your training? I don't know you mentioned you want to go try to get bigger and go up to 240 or 250, but do you usually stick around that 225?
I'm usually walking around at about 230. Yeah. I always inevitably lose a little bit of weight during camps. Because I train so much and only seem to find time to eat not quite enough. But yeah, I mean, even but before I broke my hand bad last year, I was 235 plus probably, so not quite as light. So I lost a little weight during that process. But so it'll come back relatively easy. But yeah, right now I'm walking around at about 230.
Yeah. So I think all three of your fights have been in the Sanford Pentagon. Is that's obviously kind of your home turf a little bit. You're from South Dakota. Uh, if you had it ideal situation, would you want to keep fighting there for the, I guess, the foreseeable future, or would you kind of just go wherever Bellator would have you?
Yeah, I like fight at the Pentagon. It's cool to go back home, and I get a pretty big home crowd there. But at some point, hopefully relatively soon, I do want to um, get the experience of fighting somewhere else. Because
Yeah.
at least when it's in Sioux Falls, I live in Minneapolis right now. I don't even fly. Like I drive down, and it's a little bit different than what it's normally going to be, especially when I get to higher level fights and they're in, Vegas or overseas or whatever. I do want to get that experience under my belt of traveling a long ways and like fighting in a place that's not really familiar to me.
Yeah. So you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but I'm just curious. Your two fights in on your Bellator career. How long is your fight contract with Bellator, and I guess how many more fights do you have left, if you don't mind me asking?
I've just been doing single fight contracts with Bellator. So
Okay.
these have been two single fight contracts. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, do you, I guess, hope to stay with Bellator? Or are you just kind of open to fighting under any organization?
Yeah. At the moment, I'm pretty open. I haven't really, I haven't decided like an exact course that I want to go or whether I want to, stay with Bellator and take on a multi-fight contract or try to go the UFC route or one or there's quite a few options, PFL even. I haven't really figured that out yet, so I'm kind of just keeping my doors open at the moment.
Yeah. So if you, I guess, had it your ideal way, you said you have a lot of doors open, but you would just kind of, I guess, fight for whatever opportunity presents itself, if I'm hearing you right.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point, and I gotta talk about it like with my management team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But eventually I'll pick like a specific goal, somewhere I want to go. Like if I'm like I'll be like, all right, I'm staying in Bellator, we're going to the top, something like that. But yeah, as of right now, I'm just trying to get experience under my belt and not necessarily hard commit anywhere.
Yeah. So I've gotten into MMA recently, and I'm starting to figure out all these other promotions outside of the UFC. And I guess from your point of view now, as someone who has the opportunity to fight in different organizations, what's your opinion? I guess I don't know if you even followed it, but I find PFL interesting, how they have the like whole tournament style. Do you think that's like, I guess, like interesting, or what's your point of view as an MMA fighter, obviously?
Yeah, that is definitely intriguing, because it is, as far as money goes. I mean, if you make it into the guys that fight for the tournament, and then
Yeah.
like you're getting paid to fight every single time, and then if you come out on top, you're obviously getting $1 million. Um, that does sound pretty intriguing. I don't know. I've heard guys talk about, and I don't know if they're just making noise. I haven't looked at it personally, like that it's not really sustainable. Like they're gonna burn out eventually, handing out that much money. I'm not sure, but it's definitely an interesting idea, and I kind of like the idea of the whole tournament style thing. Yeah.
Yeah, from my point of view as a fan, it seems I would agree with you. It seems like they're just throwing around money. But it's interesting to learn about all the different opportunities that MMA fighters have. Another question I have for you. I know you're close with Co Kieft from former Gophers tight end. He's always retweeting some of your MMA stuff on Twitter. I guess as close friends, how cool was it for you to see him get drafted last spring by the Buccaneers and kind of both of you guys go into professional careers respectively?
Yeah, I mean that was it's awesome. It's awesome to see him living out that dream. I know how bad he's wanted that and how much it means to him. You know, we went through the whole college scene together, and he was always putting in work and always doing more, doing that little bit extra. And I know how much it means to him, so it means so much to me to see him just achieve that dream. And it sounds like it's going really well for him right now. You know, he's still in there. He hasn't been cut or anything like that, so it sounds like he's kicking butt. And it's yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So last question I'll get you out on here. Is there like a time frame that you are hoping to get another fight booked in the future?
I don't have anything real specific. I've got like 4 to 6 weeks on my hand. Um, and then yeah, I've got some, you know, I got some traveling to do this fall, and then I was thinking looking at like this winter sometime. Yeah, but yeah, again, I haven't put too much thought into it. I've just been kind of relaxing, taking my mind off things with this last week and a half after the fight.
Yeah, you're only 3-0, obviously. If ideally, I guess, do you hope to like fight 2, 3 times a year? If you had it like perfect scenario, or I guess what's kind of your long-term outlook in that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably 3 times a year would be it's is pretty active, and obviously it all depends on how much damage you take and injuries and stuff like that. Like if my hand keeps acting up, that might be a hindrance there. But again, I'm 24 and not exactly rushing to take fights. There will be a point in my career, I'm sure, where I'm going to have to push and probably be real active. And but as of right now, yeah, I'm just kind of taking my time, trying to develop as much as I can in between fights, and not really rush anything.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all I got for you today. It's really fun to watch you develop in your MMA career, and I'll always be rooting for you. And I think most of Gophers football fans will be too. Thanks again for doing this, and yeah, good luck rest of your career.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.